Good afternoon. Welcome back to my channel. If you're a new viewer, welcome to my channel. I am Kyle. Today we will be talking artillery, definitions of different types of artillery, the tactics used during the American Revolution, the Age of Sail, and the Civil War involving artillery. And I would like to make a quick disclaimer, however. I don't know why, but during this video you will see me making glances at my notes. For some weird reason, I'm having difficulty retaining information. So, with that said and out of the way, here are your timestamps. Now, man the guns. Okay, so quick disclaimer, I am not an expert in this field, so I will try to the best of my abilities to explain the weapons and the tactics used for said weapons at the time. My apparel will also not be correct. So, with that out of the way, during the Age of Sail, many sailors would get struck by scurvy, and the best way to prevent scurvy was to eat plenty of fruit, but mostly citrus fruit. So don't forget to drink your rations with a little bit of lemon juice, because if you weren't healthy enough to fight, you couldn't defend the ship. But before we get into that, let's define some of the terms. And please correct me if my terms are wrong. To my understanding, a field gun is a piece of artillery that shoots mostly out in front of it and a little bit at a negative angle. A howitzer is a gun with a shorter barrel that shoots more at a 5-degree to about a 35-degree elevation. A mortar, which I do not have, is a much shorter barrel that can shoot anywhere from 45 to 90 degrees. So, now that we got the definitions, this here, even though it's a naval cannon, to my understanding, is a field artillery piece because it shoots mostly straight and then with elevations going down. So, when you use your cannons, make sure you have the right powder. You either want to use 1F or 2F powder, so cannon or rifle powder. They say when you shoot these, you want to use a fuse about 15 seconds, or depending on what kind of fuse you get, because the fuse I have here, it burns 1 inch for 5 seconds. So, for 15 seconds, I'd need 3 inches. All my cannons, however, shoot a 20 grain charge and a 50 caliber ball. So, now that we have those out of the way, some of the weapons you would use to defend your cannons, at least on a ship, would be a boarding axe. I know this is a Dane axe, so that's not correct. A hatchet, and okay, before we get any further on, yes, I understand that this is a tomahawk, but tomahawk is an Algonquin word, if I remember correctly. It means to strike. And see how most Native Americans did not have ironworks? It would be a stone head with one end being sharp. This is a French hatchet, which French soldiers during the 7 Years' War would trade for, let's say, like blankets, food, things like that. So this is not a tomahawk. This is a French-style hatchet. Some crewmen might be armed with a flintlock pistol. Others might have swords. And some, or if you were able to hire, Marines would have the Brown Bess. These were just some of the guns you'd use to defend your cannon piece. Now, this cannon and some of the other cannons can shoot multiple different kinds of shot. You can shoot round shot, which is a solid projectile. Common shot, which was a hollow projectile, which you would either fill the center with. It could be a number of things. For a heated shot, you put in hot liquid metal. For an explosive shot, you put in gunpowder and then a fuse in the top as a cork. So it would shoot, depending on how long your fuse was, it would either detonate in the air, showering the top deck with shrapnel, or punch through one of the walls, detonate in there, sending shrapnel amongst the gun crews. They also had grape shot, which if you remember from my Cavalry Bigger episode, which I just loaded a bunch of pellets into a paper casing, it'd be similar to that, but obviously a much bigger projectile because cannons. They'd also shoot, they were like darts, but they were rods that would fly out, disperse, and then I believe the idea was to penetrate through the hole, or they would either heat these darts up or send a heated shot, because when they hit the ship, it would catch on fire and ideally burn it down. Another one was chain shot, which is just two cannonballs chained together, swirling through the air. There was a variation called a star shot, which was just 5 cannonballs tethered together by a chain. There was bar shot, which is half a cannonball with a bar in the middle, so it would tumble through the air. There was also a expanding bar shot, which is just bar shot, but on a telescopic expanding bar. All right, so there is plenty more shots that I can't get into due to the limitations of my phone's recording and memory storage. So let's move on to the cannon real quick. So in 1712, the Royal Office of Ordnance appointed Albert Bogard, I think that's correct, to classify different types of ordnance or artillery pieces. And he did this by weight. So some of the guns were anywhere from 11 foot or 3.5 meters and longer. It had a 6-inch or a 150 millimeter bore caliber and could weigh 5,600 pounds or 2,500 kilograms or larger. What I have in front of me, this mini artillery piece, if I remember correctly, is a 32-pounder Demi-cannon. And there were 2 different kinds of 32-pounders. There were the short ones, which you often see along a broadside, or, the left and right side, or port and starboard. And there were also aft guns and bow guns, which were, even though they were the same calibers, 32-pounder, they were longer by, I think, an extra 2 to 3 feet. So, my miniature here, I believe it's a 8 inches, weighs about maybe 4 pounds, and is again a 50 caliber or .49 diameter ball, and shoots 20 grains of powder and is fuse ignited. So let's go into the procedures on how you load and fire this thing, and then we'll continue on from there. Alright, so on the order make ready, there's usually a pulley here and here. On the order make ready, you'd pull the cannon back, remove the plug or tap on, swab the barrel, oh, the whole point of the tap on was to keep rust from developing on the inside from all the salt in the sea air. Okay. Prepare cartridge. Ram. Prepare shot. Ram. Prime and load. Only be smaller, but because so cover. Move into position. ready to fire, fire, and then once it shoots, it roll back into position so they don't have to do it again. And then you just repeat. So let me show that. So fire, roll back into position, worm, swab, prepare cartridge, ram, prepare shot, ram, we're not going to put the fuse in this time, we're just going to cover it with this piece of leather. Move into position, ready to fire, fire, and you'd repeat that. This gun on average took 9 to 10 people to operate, and you can get anywhere from 3 to 5 shots per 5 minutes. One tactic used during the Age of Sail is something like this, where one row of ships would sail past another row of ships, exchanging fire along the way. So as it got further and further, and depending how fast or how fast your crew loaded the guns or how fast you could fire, you just engage this one, and by the time you reach here, you should be loaded enough to engage that one, and then by the time you reach this one, you should be, ready to engage that one. Well, that was just one tactic. Another tactic they'd use would be this one, similar to the first one, only with an additional second row, which made it difficult for your enemy, because now your enemy has to fight on 2 different sides, and you only have to fight, and you and your fellow captains would only have to engage on one side. So as you sail past, you fire, moving more, you fire on this one, your buddy moves in and continues to fire on that one, but at the same time, this one is moving in unison with you. So as you two go forward, these two go forward, wreaking havoc on the ships in the middle. Another tactic that I think Admiral Nelson used and was credited for basically inventing, I'll show that one to you. Lord Nelson took his ships and sailed them directly down the line of the enemy ships. And as you can see, I have these laid out. I have them laid out this way on purpose, because what this does, this disrupts the connection. Because let's say he's sailing, you sail by, you fire, but you haven't returned a single volley. So you come here and you fire both guns, and you only manage to damage the front or the back, which is a very small target. So the idea of hitting all, I think it's like 12 guns aside. So the idea of all 24 guns hitting the front is not as likely as if they were sideways. And because ships aren't very fast in turning, it would take you a while to eventually turn back around. But as this ship is sailing past, this ship is sailing, engaging that target, which now has to turn out of the way. So what this did is it weakened and disorganized the enemy ships. And unfortunately, Lord Nelson would not see the end of his conflict, which I think it was the Napoleonic, I'm not sure. But he would never see the end of the war, but he was credited for using this tactic against other sailors. Alright, so let's move on to the next gun. This gun here is a Galloper. It was used in 1740 by the British Army and the U.S. continent, as later the U.S. Army. It fired a 1.5 to a 4-pound shot, and in some cases a 6-pound shot. The total weight plus carriage is about 600 pounds or 272 kilograms. It was designed to be light, that a single horse can pull it. Now, here's some of the weapons that were used to defend the Galloper, where, again, the officer carried a sword and possibly a pistol. But the main operators, that'd be the swabber, wormer, primer, ammo bearer, and what was the other one? Rammer more than likely carried a carbine version of a Brown Bess. And if they could not, for some reason, keep their guns or, repel an attack, they were supposed to take a small metal spike about the size of the touch hole and hammer it in, which would render the gun useless until you can get it removed. But it kept the enemy from capturing the gun and then turning it on your guys. So, my miniature here is 7.375 inches or 18.323 centimeters. It is 3 pounds or 1.361 kilograms. It fires a 50 caliber ball or a .49 diameter ball. All right, so let's go into the procedure. All right, so this will be similar to the naval cannon, only we're not going to remove anything from the bore. So, putting your thumb over the touch hole, you're going to swab the barrel. Prepare cartridge. Ram cartridge. Prepare shot. Ram shot. Prick and prime. Prepare to fire. Fire. These guns were assigned in regiments in pairs, positioned in the front of or in the advance of infantry, laying down cover or destructive fire until the enemy was within 100 yards of the opposing infantry, or, within musket distance. Now, this cannon, similar to the howitzer, which I'll show later, took 5 to 6 men to operate, but if you were desperate, you could do it with just 2. After the American Revolutionary War, Fort Arnold, named after famous Brigadier General Benedict Arnold, would be renamed and transformed into the Military Academy of West Point after his defection and betrayal of the U.S. At the time, France, being one of our major supporters, would send over French instructors along with military manuals written in French, translated to English. When the Civil War rolled around, the tactics used during this war were inspired by the Napoleonic Wars and incredibly outdated. Now, before we get into the artillery piece, let me introduce some of the weapons artillerymen were expected to use to defend the guns. Officers were expected to carry a sword, as you already know that this is not a saber, this is my cutlass. And with their saber, they were expected to have a repeating revolver, such as this Remington 44 here that I have. And that was just the officer. This is the man who gave you the order to reload, fire, so on and so forth. The cannon operators, such as the swabber, the wormer, the loader, were given carbines, though not of this particular model. They probably had one similar, or there's a chance they might have had these, because when you have a surplus of equipment, you're gonna use it. Or there's a possibility they might have had modified versions of Enfield muskets or Springfield muskets. Though Springfield was used dominantly by the Union, there was a large import of Enfields from Britain to both armies at the time, but it will see more usage with the Confederacy. Now, should for some reason they fail to defend the gun, the officer, or not the officer, the operator of the cannon would take a nail similar to this and put it into the touch hole. And with that done, the cannon could no longer be operated until you got the nail removed. Alright, so now that we've got the weapons out of the way, let's actually talk about the howitzer. The M1841 Mountain Howitzer saw service from 1837 to about 1870. Served in 3 wars: the Mexican-American War, the Civil War, and the American-Indian or the Frontier War. Designed to be lightweight, highly portable, and easy to disassemble, made it suitable for mountain warfare and guerrilla tactics. The Mountain Howitzer weighed a total of 500 pounds or 227 kilograms, fired a 12-pound shot using half a pound or 2 kilograms of powder for a total distance of, at a 5-degree elevation, of about 1,005 yards or 991 meters. My miniature, however, is 6.75 inches or 17.145 centimeters, weighs 2.7 pounds or 1.225 kilograms, and fires a 50 caliber or a .490 diameter ball. Now, how you would load it, you take your thumb, put it over the touch hole, and while that's doing, you give the command to load. Right here is 20 grains of black powder. You'd put that in, ram, get your shot, ram that, and you give the order to prick and prime. Now the prick and prime is where you take the pricker will take a prick, puncture the cartridge, take the fuse and insert it in. And then on the command, ready to fire, you remove your thumb. And then when you say fire, you'd light the fuse, it'd burn, igniting the powder, discharging the weapon. Now let me remove all these things so I can show you what you do after that. Then after it's fired, you take the swab, and yell swabber. No, take the worm, go wormer, keeping your thumb over the touch hole. That way it keeps any oxygen from going into any leftover embers. You'd stick it in, twist it, worm it out. Then you'd yell swabber, who would dip the swab in water to keep it moist but not drenching wet. Go swab. And because it's wet, any embers that were left over are now extinguished. And then you repeat the process again. Cartridge, ram cartridge, shot, ram shot, prick and prime, ready to fire, fire. Used for siege warfare, indirect fire at a 20 to 40 degree angle. It fire either an explosive or common shot. Okay, before we fire the cannon, let's go over a few safety things. First things first, we need our earplugs, our eye protection. Now these were full-size cannons. When we go to ignite them, you would want to cover your ears to prevent any hearing loss and open your mouth. Now the reason behind that one is theoretically it's to equalize the pressure from the cannon being fired and your internal pressure, which will help keep you from suffering internal injuries. That's why you'll see a lot of reenactors when they go ready to fire and the wormer and the rammer on the opposite side of the cannons will cover their ears, open their mouth, and then fire. Later on, when you were doing the naval cannons, they would actually cover their ears, open their mouth, and look away, because you don't want to stare at the barrel as it goes off, just in case of any of the particles come out and get in your eyes. Now with that said and done, let's load up our first cannon and go on from there. Okay, so let's use this as the mark position. Roll it back, remove tampon, swab, prepare cartridge, ram, prepare shot, Ram. Prick and prime. Ready to fire. Fire. Okay. So when you fire, make sure your fuses and powder are covered, because the fuse will shoot up, and if it lands in your powder, then all of it goes up. That's why when you see this, it's covered. Alright, let's aim it at the target and see if we can aim this thing. Alright, so that red disc is about 5 yards away. How we would aim our cannon, there's this little screw right here. And that's how you do adjust the elevation. So, need to wheel it a little to the right. Aim it a little up. Alright, that looks about right. Now I just need to bring the screw up to hold it there. On an actual ship, this would be done by 2 crew members who would lift the up with planks and then put a wedge under it. Alright. Worm. Swab. Prepare cartridge. Ram. Prepare shot. Ram. Prick and prime. Ready to fire. Fire. That went way out there. Now we just repeat. All right. I adjusted my elevation. Let's do it again. Swab. No, worm. Swab. Prepare cartridge. Ram. Prepare shot. Ram. Prick and prime. Uh-oh, dropped it. Right. Ready to fire. Fire. Wait 10 seconds. Alright. Troubleshoot. Alright, so we're ready. What I think happened is I didn't push the cartridge all the way back. So let's try again. Ready to fire. I don't know what it hit, but it ricocheted back. Alright, adjusted the elevation again. So, worm. Swab. Readjust. Prepare cartridge. Ram. Prepare shot. Ram. Now hold that there so the cartridges don't move. Prick and prime. Ready to fire. Fire. Right, so that hit. It hit a metal shed back there. So I'm off to the left. So worm. Swab. Prepare cartridge. Ram. Prepare shot. Ram. Frickin' prime. Oh, nope, ball dropped. So I have my barrel two pointed down. Adjust. Feel it hitting the ramrod. Nope. Okay, so we're just going to aim it up. We're just going to shoot it. We're not going to worry about where it's going. Well, except for into that hill. So, frickin' prime. Ready to fire. Fire. All right. One more, and then we'll move on to a different cannon. Worm. Swab. Prepare cartridge. Ram. Prepare shot. Ram. But maybe if I move this a little more forward. That looks right. Frickin' prime. Ready to fire. Fire. All right, we got it. Woo! Okay, next cannon. All right, so instead of just going through the whole process, we're just going to get it to its ready to fire state and fire it. That way you're not rewatching me do everything you just saw. So, ready to fire. Fire. 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 Prepare the fire. Fire. Ready to fire. Fire. Why didn't you want to light? Huh. Last shots, ready to fire. Fire. So, maybe I'm not cut out for artillery either. But you know, this was fun. I enjoyed it either way. So, I understand I made a mistake. I stepped over a lit fuse. So, don't ever do that, especially when it's inside a live cannon. Because I'm lucky that it was just the fuse and, you know, it didn't, you know, roll anywhere where I actually became, you know, in front of the cannon. Even though these are miniature cannons and their charge is significantly lower than normal black powder pistols or rifles, it doesn't mean they are not dangerous. So, treat your cannons as if they were a loaded firearm, treat them as if they were a handheld firearm, and then don't stand above a lit fuse. Alright, so, I hope you enjoyed this video, and until next time. I hope you enjoyed this video. If you did, please click the like button. If you have any suggestions or criticisms, leave a comment. And if you want to stay tuned for my next project, don't forget to click that subscribe icon and ring that bell. So, until our next project, have a beautiful day.